career, where you work, and disability. Nombre, trabajo, carrera, lugar de trabajo, discapacidad. Por favor.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Karen Romero. Mi capacidad es artritis. Me dio artritis de la edad de 2 años. He tenido muchas operaciones durante mis años. Soy graduada de Los Angeles City College. Después me transferí y fui a Cal State LA, donde me inscribí en la carrera de ser especialista de niños y consejera para ayudar a niños que están incapacitados y están en hospital y están ayudar a la familia y también ayudar a los hermanos y hermanas de la persona que está en el hospital. Hice mi trabajo social ahí un tiempo en hospitales, hice mi internship, mi trabajo social en Children's Hospital de Los Ángeles, también hice mi trabajo social en Shriners Children's Hospital de Los Ángeles, donde yo trabajé con muchos niños. Todavía me falta terminar un examen. Después comencé a trabajar con adultos. So I'm going to say in English a little bit. My name is Karen Romero. I was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis from the age of 1.5 to. I've had numerous surgeries. I've dealt with pain, of course. I attended Los Angeles City College, where I then transferred over to Cal State LA. I received my bachelor's as a child life specialist. I started LACC as child development, to be a preschool teacher where I worked with children for about 2 years. I have my permit as a teacher. Then once I transferred to Cal State LA, I changed my major and I went towards child life specialist. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with a child life specialist, but we are what they call the playroom lady over in the hospitals. And so what we do is we evaluate the stress level of the child, as well as we work as well with the parents and the siblings. And we help the siblings and the parents cope with the stay of the hospital, and we try to make it as normal as possible, whatever normal is, for the child. And we also help with the stay and the stress that the child is going under while being at the hospital. And these are kids that we're working that are having to stay long-term in the hospital. The downside of that is that we do have children that are very severe, and those that have cancer and cystic fibrosis and chronically illnesses. The downside of working with these kids is that we have to prep them for death. So that is where I changed. I went back to LACC and I decided I couldn't deal with that. I decided to go back to LACC and finish up my psychology and do the drug and alcohol program, as well as journalism. And I have my certification, so I work with adults now. I am currently employed at Los Angeles City College as a CGCA, which is a career guidance counselor assistant. And I also work as a note taker with Department of Rehabilitation.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anthony Vasquez. I am a freelance journalist looking for something more established in journalism. My disability is blindness. I was born with glaucoma since I was born with glaucoma, and I've used Braille and all kinds of technology throughout my schooling. I graduated from Cal State Long Beach with a double major in journalism and Chinese studies, and I got a master's from Stanford in East Asian Studies, China, Chinese. After graduating from Stanford, I did an internship at National Public Radio, NPR. I was working with their national desk, helping out reporters and editors, basically just being a chief person in Culver City. then I've gotten a couple stories published on the local NPR station here, KPCC, and I'm still looking for more opportunities. I just came from New York actually where I took an exam at the United Nations for a radio job there. So staying, as I start my career, it's still early, so looking for different opportunities. I also have a part-time job. Actually, I have two part-time jobs now. One as a waiter at Opaque, a restaurant in Santa Monica that does dining in the dark. And also, I just recently started testing web pages for accessibility for a nonprofit in Texas. Okay. Buenas tardes, me llamo Anthony Vázquez. Yo soy un periodista independiente. Estoy buscando una oportunidad más establecida en periodismo. Nací con glaucoma congenital, entonces desde chiquito he usado Braille y mucha tecnología avanzada para hacer mis trabajos en las escuelas. Me gradué de la Universidad Cal State Long Beach con licenciaturas en periodismo y estudios chinos. Luego fui a Stanford y agarré una maestría en estudios de Asia Oriental. Seguí estudiando el chino mandarín y la historia china y la política china. Después de Stanford hice una práctica en la radio pública nacional, NPR, aquí en Culver City. Ayudé a periodistas y a redactadores con sus trabajos. Desde entonces he publicado 2 reportajes en la estación KPCC aquí en Pasadena, que es miembro de NPR. Y también tengo trabajos part-time en un restaurante que se llama Opaque. Especializa en la experiencia de comer a oscuras. Todo el restaurante es oscuro y gente ciega son los meseros. También estoy ahorita estoy probando páginas, asegurándome que las páginas de una compañía estén accesibles para gente usando programas que ven la pantalla para una compañía de redes. También estoy buscando más oportunidades. Recientemente fui a Nueva York, a las Naciones Unidas, a tomar un examen ahí. Entonces, apenas estoy empezando mi carrera, pero poco a poco estoy buscando más oportunidades. Gracias.
Okay, my name is Steve Bauer. I don't speak Spanish, unfortunately, so I'll have to rely on the good graces of your fine translators. I went to school at UC Santa Barbara, majored in English literature and speech communications, and intended to go on to get my teaching credential. Got sidetracked and got a radio job and loved it and thought I'd do it for a couple of years, and it turned into 25. So at some point decided to make a career change and moved down here to the LA area, got involved with the Department of Rehabilitation, and with the idea of getting into a teaching position. I'm currently employed at Braille Institute as a Braille instructor and also as an access technology specialist. I teach 5 of our weekly Braille classes and oversee a great group of volunteers to teach other classes. And I also work in the afternoons at our Connections Point. By the way, I'm at Braille Institute in Orange County in Anaheim. We do a lot of one-on-one demos of equipment, especially to newly blinded folks, some one-on-one training. I do some workshops and various other activities related to our expanding presence in technology.
Okay. Él se llama Steve, él estudió en UC Santa Barbara. Antes trabajaba before you used to work at the Department of Rehab, right?
Pardon me?
You used to work for the Department of
No,
Rehab?
I never did, no. I just took advantage of their services.
Okay, él usó los servicios que daba el Departamento de Rehabilitación y ahorita trabaja en el Instituto de Braille en Orange County y hace como entrenamientos
De braille y de tecnología y entrena en tecnología para las personas, pero en Anaheim, no en Los Ángeles. Y también trabajó en una estación de radio como casi por 25 años hasta que ya decidió trabajar en el Instituto Braille corrientemente.
Ok, Lalo Lizarde, buenas tardes a todos. Yo trabajo actualmente y he trabajado por los últimos 30 años para el Distrito Escolar Unificado de Los Ángeles en el área del programa que asiste a los estudiantes con problemas visuales. El trabajo que tengo yo básicamente es el proporcionar los materiales que necesitan los estudiantes para ser exitosos en sus estudios, y estos materiales varían entre libros en braille o en sistema de imprenta grande, al igual que el papel especializado que se utiliza, las calculadoras que hablan. Hace mucho tiempo obviamente teníamos grabadoras de cassettes, ya no se usan, pero tenemos ahora lectores digitales, grabadoras digitales. Tenemos televisiones de cortocircuito, el cual le permiten a un estudiante leer un texto regular. Se pone abajo de una cámara y esa misma imagen se proyecta en la pantalla del aparato, y de esta manera el estudiante puede engrandecer la letra al tamaño que sea cómodo para ese estudiante. Así es de que a través de los años hemos tenido muchos estudiantes. Hemos llegado a tener en el programa más de 800 estudiantes. Ustedes saben, el Distrito Escolar de Los Ángeles creo que es el tercero más grande de los Estados Unidos, y incorpora escuelas desde el Valle de San Fernando hasta acá el área de San Pedro. Entonces, pues tenemos muchos estudiantes con diferentes niveles de aprendizaje y diferentes necesidades. Y como les dije anteriormente, uno de mis responsabilidades es de buscar los materiales que estos estudiantes necesitan, empacarlos y enviarlos por nuestro correo interno o nuestro servicio de distribución dentro del distrito escolar. Ya se le manda a los maestros de esos estudiantes, y los maestros se encargan de asegurarse que esos materiales lleguen y sean utilizados por los alumnos. Once again, my name is Lalo Lizardi, employed by Los Angeles Unified School District for the Visually Impaired program. Been doing that for 30 plus years, and part of my job, or most of my job, is dealing with materials that help our students be successful at studying. And so what that means is that the teacher will call in an order to our office for materials, and materials could be braille book, large print books, specialized paper, talking calculators, closed circuit TVs. And those of you who are not familiar with closed circuit TVs, it's actually it's a device with a camera, and you put regular print material underneath the camera, and then it shows on the monitor. And the student then is able to enlarge the letters to the point where it is comfortable for them to read whatever print might be underneath the camera. So our job, of course, is to help them be successful by providing them the materials that they need. And so my job is to then take the requests of those teachers and find either the books or the equipment, put it together in such a way that it will travel safely throughout the school district. We are the third largest in the nation, and that means we've got schools all the way from the San Fernando Valley down to the San Pedro area. And at one point, we had over 850 students that were just in our program. So, as you can imagine, they kept us really, really busy. But it's something that I've always enjoyed doing, and it's something that I take pleasure in doing, because when I was a student of Los Angeles Unified, I never got my materials on time. And so one of the things that I promised myself was that I would try to get the materials to the students as soon as possible. And of course, sometimes it's not possible because the materials are not there to be sent. But when they are, I waste no time. We try to do it as fast as we can and get it to the students so they can utilize it. Una de las cosas que pasaba cuando yo era estudiante del distrito escolar es que siempre estaba atrasado en mis estudios. Y estaba atrasado porque no había materiales. Entonces, sin materiales no podía estudiar. Y cuando comencé yo este trabajo, me prometí a mí mismo que iba a tratar de hacer lo posible para que los estudiantes tuvieran sus materiales en cuanto sea posible, básicamente. Entonces, eso es lo que trato de hacer. Y de esta manera los estudiantes pues, pueden progresar, no tienen que concentrarse en que si tienen los materiales o no. Su responsabilidad básicamente es concentrarse en sus estudios. Gracias. Thank you guys.
Ok. Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Luis Herrera y yo nací normal, supuestamente.
Y luego algo pasó.
A la edad de 3 años y medio fue cuando perdí la vista. Empecé a perder, mi mamá notó que yo tenía problemas no enfocar la vista en cosas y fui diagnosticada con un problema que nunca le dieron nombre y hasta este tiempo no saben cuál es la razón por qué empecé a perder la vista. Y yo fui al distrito escolar de Los Ángeles. A la edad de 15 años me transfirieron a la universidad, donde ejercí mi carrera en ingeniería electrónica. Y pues de ahí yo fui a la Universidad de Northwich, donde me mandaron a la edad de 15, pero yo había agarrado una beca para la Universidad de San Francisco, pero nunca me gustó el clima. Y cambié, fui el tiempo a la Universidad de Arizona y luego regresé a obtener mi bachelor's degree en el área de computación y tecnología electrónica. Y de ahí me fui a trabajar, trabajé por una compañía que se especializaba en proyectos para la NASA y mi posición en ese tiempo era de programar sistemas que miden la cantidad de oxígeno que va en los uniformes que se ponen los astronautas. Y ahí trabajé por 9 meses pues, hasta que se acabó ese contrato y luego trabajé por otras compañías diseñando programas de computadora y se me ofreció la oportunidad de trabajar en una compañía que se llama Industries y esa es una compañía de contratos militares y pues en esa compañía yo ejercí como mi carrera más adelante en el área de tecnología. Mi posición era de diseñar, mantener y programar las computadoras grandes y chicas. En ese tiempo las computadoras, la tecnología especial que existe ahora no existía nada. No había programas que hablaban, no había programas de prueba para la computadora. Y yo tenía un aparato que se llama el Opticon, que consistía de dos partes. Una cámara que uno usaba para navegar la pantalla y la otra parte que era donde lo que la cámara captaba se ponía en el otro aparato táctil que con un dedo tenía que leer toda la información, pasaba letra por letra hasta que llegaba al final. Pero fue una cosa que me abrió paso y durante mi tiempo en esa compañía por más de 20 años fue donde empezó a ejercer toda esta nueva tecnología, pero para ese tiempo yo había diseñado modos de cómo hacer mi trabajo en diferentes áreas, diferentes capacidades. Y pues hace casi 13 años tuve un accidente que después de 20 años y medio pues me retiraron y ahora trabajo, consulto con diferentes corporaciones y compañías en el área de accesibilidad y tecnología, y también soy parte del grupo de científicos que tiene el objetivo de rediseñar la tecnología que existe para hacerla más accesible, y estoy empezando a tomar parte en un grupo que se especializa en introducir a las personas cómo pensar en las necesidades del público cuando diseñan una nueva tecnología o un nuevo proyecto. Now, okay, here we go again. Let's see if I can do this right. You gotta understand one thing. My mother's Italian and Greek, my father's Mexican Indian, so I get confused. Okay? So let's hope I don't mess it up. My name is Luis Herrera, and I was born with normal eyesight, or quote unquote normal, but somebody here said that he was doubting me. But at the age of 3.5, I started losing my eyesight. I also went through the school district. I was a student at we used to call back then the penitentiary, Francis Glenn Elementary. And then I was sent to my regular school, high school. Even though there was a school with a resource program, I was too independent, so I was sent to my home school. At the age of 15, I was moved again. I was sent to Cal State Northridge. I was one of those kids that in less than 3 weeks I managed to be in the principal's office 5 times. But not for getting into trouble for fighting or anything else, but for arguing with teachers. So they figured that the best thing to do would be to transfer into a higher area of learning where I can be challenged and be kept out of trouble. So I went to the university. I was studying electrical engineering and computer science. From there, I was still also attending high school, but I was enjoying what I was learning. And then I got a scholarship to go to this University of San Francisco, which for some odd reason I couldn't deal with the weather. It was just too, not to my liking. So came back, went to University of Arizona. In the meantime, I was also working. I started to work for a small company that contracted with NASA, and my job was to write software to measure the oxygen level on spacesuits and other apparatus. So from there, that contract finished, and I went to work for another company writing software, and which I really didn't like writing software. I was more interested in hardware. But then the opportunity came for me to have a job at Litton Industries, a large aerospace company. I was the only blind engineer there, blind person who they hired. The crazy thing about it was that later I found out that I was an experimental employee. They never had hired a blind person before, and they didn't know what I would be able to do. Their idea was that I was going to end up answering telephones or doing something basic like that. When I was hired, interesting story, the whole mainframe system for our division was down for like about a week when I came on the scene. So I asked my boss if I can go see what I could do to fix it. He said, well, I don't want you to break it. I said, well, it's already broken. Nobody worked on it. When you got 450 people sitting around twiddling their thumbs, it kind of would be, something is better than nothing. So I talked him into it. I went to the main controller and I asked the secretary to tell me what the lights were doing. And as soon as he pointed out how the lights were blinking, I knew what was wrong. Something very simple. The system needed to be reset so they can relink to the mainframe and bring everybody online. But I figured, okay, here's my chance to make it sound like it's a very critical job. So I had to go have some coffee and think it through, which I finally said, and when they weren't well looking, I went and hit the reset button. And then I heard the machine start beeping across the whole area. And I went to a terminal and I put in my code and up it came. And I went to the boss and I said, it's working. He says, what'd you do? I said, well, I have to go. I gave him this real long story that sounded convincing, and he bought it. So, when I went to work, well, first of all, let me just say this. I built my first computer in 1977 out of a Heath kit. we had to solder the components. We didn't have no video cards or anything. You build your video cards, you build your system board. And that's what I did. I've always been interested in technology. So when I went to work, there was none of this modern technology existed. The only tool that I had was the Opticon. And the Opticon is that device that's got a two-part system. It's got a little camera and a little tactile array that whatever the camera picks up is displayed and you feel it as it goes across. And I used to use that to do my work, read the entire screen and scan through stuff. The beauty was that I can just switch lenses and I can go read printed material, or I can read the CRT screens. And in some cases, I would go in and read some of the circuits, which was a little challenging, but it was doable. So I did that and worked in aerospace for over 20 plus years, and sustained an injury about 13 years ago, and they retired me from aerospace. So I had to reinvent my skills and ability. In the process while I was working at Lytton, I went and obtained a master's in technology management, and then when I got injured, a few years later, I went and secured a master's in assistive technology and rehabilitation engineering. So I have actually assistive technology and ATHS, assistive technology and human services with emphasis in technology engineering. The purpose of this program was because, and what interested me about this program is that since I was injured and the injuries that I sustained had me refocus my skills and ability, I went to this program because it taught me a lot about different issues with disabilities, and now I work in the area of, I do consulting work for different companies in the areas of web accessibility compliance and hardware design for companies that are looking at developing new products and things. I also do assistive technology training. I am certified by the major software program manufacturers like ZoomText and JAWS and Window Eyes, so that I can make sure that people get quality training. So that's what I do now, and I stay out of trouble sometimes. And that's me.